The Navy said those who didn't delete the app would be blocked from the internet. You're like moving around in the ocean and I can see your location and I can now track where your ship is. There's nothing wrong with a certain level of protections around data storage requirements and some kind of tech protectionism. U.S. Navy bans TikTok over security concerns. This makes a ton of sense to me. Basically, TikTok's big in the military, in different parts of the Defense Department, and it has access to your location and your GPS and all this other information about you. It's gonna know, oh look, you're like moving around in the ocean, and I can see your location, and I can now track where your ship is. That's a pretty nice little hack into saying, oh, I've got a handful of sailors on the ship that's using it. And especially if you're on an Android phone, what kind of code is in the TikTok app to monitor your location without maybe the explicit permission. Now Apple's been trying to say, well, you can only access my location while I'm using the app versus always. But that not everyone's really checking those permissions properly and handling all that kind of stuff. So basically what the U.S. Navy has said here is users were directed to not install and uninstall the app TikTok from government furnished mobile devices such as iPhones and iPads. And this was made because of cybersecurity threats and assessments and yada, yada, yada. The Navy said those who didn't delete the app would be blocked from the intranet, basically the internet. So I guess they have some kind of code that can say, hey, does TikTok exist on this phone? If so, I'm going to block all internet from this phone. I'm going to, I guess, render the phone useless or not be able to communicate with the outside world, which is kind of interesting. But there's other examples of this too. I didn't really want to dig too much into it because they're not platforms, which means I don't really care too much about covering them.
There's something about like Map My Run and the data that people showing running around, like mapping out naval bases and this kind of stuff.
Map My Run. There's the DJI drones, which are Chinese-made drones. They control 2/3 of the market in the U.S.
Yeah.
The Homeland Security Department recently issued a directive saying we can't buy these drones anymore. DJI is trying to say we're going to make the drones in the U.S. to placate everyone, but I don't think that's going to change their fears. But yeah, there's going to be more to come on this, and I think there's nothing wrong with a certain level of protections around data storage requirements, and some kind of tech protectionism. And I think the U.S. basically has had as we were talking about yesterday on the show, almost no limits or no requirements except for specific sectors like the Defense Department or nuclear energy or these kinds of kind of industry specific hot button sectors. But we've basically been all the way on the other side of the spectrum in terms of having none of this stuff in place. And I think you're going to slowly start to see some of it creep up on these case-specific circumstances, which, they make sense to me. It's not like there was a small security company that was acquired by a Chinese company for like $25 million. Is anyone really going to look at that? No. Is it really going to make that? Do they have maybe a few million like security devices somewhere? Yeah, probably. But it's really on these mega things, right? Particularly these platforms that are in the US achieving that winner-take-all scale, like a TikTok, like a Grindr. Those kinds of things, make sense to take another look at them. Hi, this is Alex from Winner Take All. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the content. Feel free to leave a comment, ask us questions, and definitely make sure to join us on our next live stream.